Welcome, college football fans, to the Triple Option Week 9 reaction show. I'm Mikey Britt, joined by Blake Thomason,
I'm skipping some homework to do this, but I think we all know which one's more important.
and we got Alex Humble as well.
I have an unpaid traffic ticket. Can I contact FSU and hire Tim Jensen as my attorney?
All right, fellas, Friday night game. We had the Ducks rolling down to Santa Clara, California, taking on the Cal Bears at Levi Stadium, brand new state-of-the-art facility where the Niners play. Let's just say the Ducks were favored in this one, 18-point favorites. But every team in the Pac-12 seems to do at least one thing right, if not multiple things right. And Cal can throw the ball around the field very well behind Jared Goff. So this could have been a trap game for the Ducks. They didn't look their best. I think the Ducks right now are really benefiting from that Michigan State game. If they didn't schedule and beat Michigan State, I don't know if they'd be in the conversation for the top four at the moment. So that was big for them. Marcus Mariota's interception streak ended, and I don't really know if that's a good or bad thing. You never know if a player gets on a good streak and that's what they're thinking about, so they play timid. It didn't end up affecting the game. The Ducks ended up winning by 88 or by 18. So you might think, oh, that might be a positive thing, but besides that, the defense I think just needs to be a little bit more stout. And Cal's a great offensive team though. Ducks defense is on the field a lot. You guys have anything to add?
Yeah, just really quick. I know the interception streak came to an end, but I think the 5 touchdowns and 300-plus yards more than makes up for it. Jared Goff also had a good game. Only 2 touchdowns, but he completed over 60% of his passes, 360 yards, no picks. The Ducks were able to pull away, kind of like we've been accustomed to seeing the Ducks do in the past. It was 31-28 late in the second quarter, but the Ducks were able to drive down and score right before halftime, and that's one of the most crucial moments right before the half. If you get some momentum, I think that was a big point for the Ducks. Royce Freeman had another pretty good game, 22 carries, 112 yards, a couple of scores. I was right in predicting an Oregon receiver to break out. I just didn't pick the right receiver. Dwayne Stanford had a big game, 6 catches, over 100 yards, couple touchdowns. Byron Marshall also, he had some big plays. He only had 11 touches, but he was able to get almost 200 yards and a touchdown. So, the Ducks were able to air it out just like I thought. And Charles Nelson with maybe the play of the year, and that was a pretty spectacular punt return. Really the only negative that I saw, obviously the defense gave up a lot of yards and points, but getting the win is what mattered. And Oregon also had 10 penalties for over 100 yards, so something that maybe the Ducks would like to clean up going forward, especially against a disciplined team like Stanford.
I really didn't have any concerns about Oregon winning the game throughout the whole thing. It seemed like, oh, they're about to pull away, they're about to pull away. There's a couple times where Cal kind of made it interesting, and then Oregon kind of put the hammer down there. But one thing that did concern me, Cal targeted Troy Hill all night. They did not throw at Ifo Epre-Olumu. They were throwing to Troy Hill's side every single time. And it was almost alarming to see how many times they had success going to that side of the field. So it'll be interesting looking forward to this next week against Stanford, if Stanford's going to try to do the same thing that Cal did. And Oregon's defense, they didn't really impress me, but Cal does have a good offense. It was a huge game for Cal. You could tell they were coming. Sonny Dykes' squad, they were coming out doing some different wrinkles in their offense they hadn't shown this year. They were trying to throw the whole kitchen sink at Oregon, and Oregon kind of withstood the storm and played well. I was impressed. It was the return of Byron Marshall. He had kind of been absent since they moved him to receiver. But with this Tyner injury, it'll be kind of fun to see how Byron Marshall is used, kind of more as a hybrid. He wasn't getting the ball that much as a runner, the last couple weeks, but he did get more touches running the ball and in little screens and things like that this week. It was really fun seeing Byron Marshall come back. And it was funny to me. I wasn't really impressed by Marcus Mariota. Like, it didn't seem like his throws had the zip that they usually do. He wasn't that sharp, it seemed like. 18 for 30, wasn't his efficient self. But he threw for 330 yards, 5 touchdowns, and had a QBR of 89. That's Marcus on a bad week. That just goes to show what a high standard he's set for himself. And, yeah, Oregon was just dominant when they needed to be, and they got it done.
Important to note, Thomas Tyner didn't play in this game. Oregon's he's one of the many backs in their stable, but Charles Nelson, the man with the big return touchdown, he was getting some carries in this game off sweeps, and he was also lining up in the backfield, so that was interesting. After the game, Coach Helfrich just said he just realized that number 6 was just too good to not put the ball in his hands. So that's cool. True freshman right there, Charles Nelson.
What really impressed me about Charles Nelson, too, is he has the big punt return. And then it might have been on the ensuing kickoff or the kickoff later. He's the first one down there, tackles the Cal returner inside the 15, just flies down there just to see a guy who just wants, you can tell he wants that playing time. He wants to get on the field. He's doing everything he can to just impress the coaches. And then one last thing to note, Marcus Mariota now has a touchdown-interception ratio on his career, 87 TDs, 11 interceptions, good for almost 8 touchdowns per interception. That is historic.
Wow, yeah, that's a pretty amazing stat, and that puts him above a lot of NFL greats. I was looking at a list of, I think he's above Rodgers, Manning, Drew Brees, some of those guys. Moving on from a game that featured 100 points to a game that featured barely any. We had 17 total points in the LSU Ole Miss game. This game was getting hyped up, and to our surprise, it was kind of as some people predicted. LSU and Death Valley, we all knew it was going to be a tough environment. Not really sure how LSU was going to play against top 5 team after getting just demolished by some other top 5 teams, but they came out and they battled this one. They had showed a lot of heart, a lot of guts. Interesting stat. Last 20 years, only 2 teams have beaten a top 3 opponent while scoring under 10 points. Both of those times was LSU. You guys probably remember their 9-6 victory over Alabama. And then obviously their 10-7 win last week against Ole Miss. It was a pretty ugly game. LSU had 4 turnovers. They lost the turnover battle 4-1, but they were still able to find a way to win, so credit to them. Jennings was only 8 of 16 for 142 yards. He threw 2 picks. Did throw the game-winning touchdown. But I think the running game was the most impressive part. Leonard Fournette had 23 carries, 113 yards. Terrence McGee added 12 for 74, and Kenny Hilliard also had 12 for 63. LSU ran 70 offensive plays, and they ran the ball 55 times against the vaunted Ole Miss defense. They were able to just pound it. I saw something like they ran over 40 times in between the tackles. That puts a lot of wear and tear on both sides of the ball, running backs getting hit, and defense just getting pounded. They're able to wear them down at the end. That final drive went over 90 yards, and the second play of the drive that wasn't a run was that touchdown pass to senior tight end Logan Stokes. His first catch of the season, and I believe it might have also been his first catch of his career. Just an incredible moment for him. Bo Wallace struggled. 14 of 33 for 176, a touchdown and a pick. It's kind of like we were saying. Bo Wallace has been good all season, but we know that bad Bo Wallace exists, and he showed tonight, especially late in the game at the end. Kind of questionable play calling from the coach at first, just not attempting the field goal. I understand trying to get a few more yards before you attempt the field goal. I'm sure he told Bo, if it's not there, throw it away, but Bo must have thought he saw something. Poor decision, got picked off. It was actually the second interception he threw of the drive, but the other one was called back on a pass interference. And Ole Miss, they got pretty lucky. As I was watching the game, LSU fumbled a lot. LSU also dropped a few interceptions. I thought early in the game LSU should have been winning 7-0 instead of losing, but they were able to find a way to claw it out in the end. That was pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah, throughout the game, it just seemed like whether was not capitalizing on the field position that they had. They had a couple solid drives get messed up by turnovers and fumbles and interception, and then it seemed like Bo Wallace and the Ole Miss offense was just trying to give them the ball, and they could not capitalize. They were just not capitalizing on the ball being right there for the taking, dropping interceptions. Um, the difference in the game, you already kind of hit on this, is the ability of LSU to run the ball. Ole Miss couldn't run the ball, and both quarterbacks, it was an exercise in utility throwing it. Bo Wallace had a QBR of 33. Anthony Jennings had a QBR of 29. Not often you win a game with a QBR of 29. Um, but when you can run it for over 260 yards against one of the nation's top defenses, you're always going to be in the game. And that was something that LSU was always able to control the clock because they were running the ball. So it really felt like they should have been winning by a lot more because they had the ball for so long and they were building good drives, but they just couldn't finish them. That final drive at the end of the game, I place all of the blame on Coach Freeze management. They could have. It was a reasonable field goal before the delay of game. You saw him hesitating. Do I go for it? Do I kick the field goal? And that indecision left his kicker with no time to kick the field goal. Really didn't rush it. Probably the smart call to take the delay of game and not rush the kick. But then it's third down and 8, and they decide to throw it. And I mean, you just can't. You can't put your quarterback in that situation where he could make the mistake. I would have just kicked the field goal. I think it's a safe play, especially on, but they didn't, and it cost them.
Yeah, special night in Baton Rouge. Anytime you go down to Death Valley, you're gonna be in for a fight. But the added adversity of Les Miles' mother passing away the night before, Martha Miles. I think LSU came out and they had to get the job done for the Mad Hatter out there. That was awesome to see, um, and that was a hell of an effort by their defense as well. Um, it's kind of interesting that Ole Miss, after the fact, looking at the rankings, they only dropped from 3 to 7. I thought that was kind of interesting. I think despite this win, I think LSU is a little overrated, um, and I just see better teams behind Michigan or behind Ole Miss, such as like Michigan State and Georgia.
Yeah, but it's tough with the rankings because Ole Miss falls to 7, and taking their place at number 3 is Bama. But I don't know if the voters forgot what happened a couple weeks ago, but I certainly didn't. Ole Miss beat Alabama. They're both one-loss teams. I just don't see how you could say, well, the Bama loss at Ole Miss looks better than the Ole Miss loss at LSU, so we're going to put Bama 4 spots ahead of Ole Miss. It's just kind of unfair, the recency bias that you see in the polls where, oh, you lose early in the season, doesn't really matter, but you lose this week, well, guess what? We're going to drop you.
Yeah, I mean we could talk about this for hours, but I think the preseason rankings has too big of an effect on the actual rankings. What the AP comes out with.
It'll be interesting to see what the committee does tomorrow. I mean, because you have those head-to-heads. You have the Oregon and Michigan State. You have the Mississippi State and Auburn. You have the Ole Miss and Alabama. Not that Mississippi State has a loss, but there's a lot of head-to-heads in the top 10. You haven't really seen that much, just to see where the committee gauges every team in the rankings, because the committee's rankings are going to be the ones that really matter.
Yeah, on our prediction show, I said that if LSU wins this, I think it would be a true upset. But it's hard. It's hard to say. It's hard to channel like what's going on in the SEC when South Carolina is almost upsetting Auburn and beating Georgia and getting crushed by A&M. So yeah, we'll see what the committee does.
Yeah, something to add, kind of adding injury to or insult to injury. Linebacker Denzel Kamdichi he broke his ankle. He's going to be out for the season for Ole Miss, so kind of a double loss. And they have a big game next week. Try to rebound against Auburn. That'll help clear things up too as the season progresses. A lot of these head-to-heads will kind of take care of themselves. Uh, Moving on though, let's see. We have USC and Utah. That was a close game. We're talking about who would be able to win the battle between Devontae Booker and Buck Allen. Devontae Booker with a slight edge, basically identical stats, but Booker got the touchdown. Kessler had a nice day, 24, 32, 264 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did throw a pick. Travis Wilson, kind of mediocre, under 200 yards, only 1 touchdown, 18 of 32, around that high 50% completion, but he was able to protect the ball. Man, USC seems like they have so many playmakers, just not really able to finish games. It was weird from the start. I don't know if you guys were watching, but they threw a screen pass and it was actually a lateral, but no one on USC realized, and Utah just picked it up and ran it back for a touchdown. Uh, Utah is usually good on special teams, but USC was actually the one that I think had a little bit better day, especially with their return touchdown by Adoree Jackson. Yeah, down to the wire. Travis Wilson, like you said, Alex, is just able to create a little bit more offense for Utah. You saw it, drove down the field, used his legs, almost got into the end zone. And if there were any Notre Dame fans watching that last play, I'm sure they're probably upset that the play Utah ran didn't have any penalty for pass interference. But that's what happens. A little bit different. Yeah, I think it was fitting, though, at the end of the game. I'm pretty sure the final play of the game was a Utah sack. Utah leads NCAA in sacks. I was kind of surprised. I think USC is good, but at the same time, they are playing with only 48 scholarship players, so they're still kind of being affected by the handicap they had from the NCAA. I think a couple years they should be good, but Utah looks really good, and if they win big game next week, that sets up a huge game with Oregon.
There's something to be said about finding a way to win. And USC on paper they are the more talented team than Utah. They have the skill position players. The quarterback Kessler's so much more skilled than Travis Wilson. But just as a team, it just seemed like Utah wants it so bad this year, and the ball is kind of bouncing in their direction. Everything's kind of going in their favor, and it's working out well. Besides that Washington State game, which they were up 21-0 at home, they should be undefeated at this point in the season. I got to tip my cap to Travis Wilson, game manager, but with the game on the line, he takes his team 70 yards, gets a game-winning touchdown, and I love the scramble. I love the heart he showed right there. He could have went out of bounds at about the 5, but he went straight for the contact. He saw end zone and he went for it. And like you said earlier, Devontae Booker and Buck Allen kind of ran themselves to a draw. We kind of talked about in the prediction show, whichever one of those two has a bigger game, that could maybe swing the pendulum in that team's direction. Well, I mean, their stats are pretty much identical. Both teams kind of loaded the box, stopping the other team from running. So solid game from both of them. And then it was kind of a coming out party for Adoree Jackson. He was a top 10 recruit coming into the season, true freshman. Had the kickoff return for a touchdown, big interception. I would have actually liked to see USC kind of utilize him on the offensive side of the ball, kind of like UCLA did with Miles Jack last year. He kind of reminds me a little bit of the Black Mamba, Thomas. He's got that speed, that explosiveness, and a track guy. And I think the game comes down to Sarkisian's big call to go for it on 4th down. They have Andre Haidari. I talked about it in the prediction show. That was well within his range to kick the field goal. But I think Sarkisian, he went for the jugular, and it ended up costing him. And I tip my cap to Kyle Winningham and the Utes for getting it done. And then my last little snippet, how fitting is it that the game ends in a Nate Orchard sack? The senior linebacker had 6 sacks coming into the year, 10.5 coming into this USC game, made plays. He was just tenacious all over the field. And it was pretty awesome to see that a lot of people had talked about him in the lead up to the game, to see him put the exclamation point on the victory for Utah.
I'm so happy for Travis Wilson after that win. This guy's battled a lot of concussions, a lot of head injuries. You see him balling out there with his with that weird new style helmet. You see a lot of guys that have battled with concussions wearing um, game manager. But when I think of Travis Wilson, and when people think of the Pac-12, they think of a solid quarterback conference. Well, I put Travis Wilson in that group. I don't watch all of Utah's games, but Travis Wilson, I just see him like a part of that group because this guy just does what it takes to win and looks the part. And he goes out there and he's got a lot of guts. Even this year against Michigan, he landed on his head and was taken out. And so I applaud Travis Wilson, the game manager, but the leader, it seems, on the Utah Utes. Utah, they beat a team ranked 20th, has the 19th ranked team, and this week in the AP they only moved up to 18th, so that's interesting. I'm ready to talk about the game against Arizona State this weekend right now, though, because that's going to go a long way in determining the Pac-12 South.
Yeah, I think the voters were kind of tentative in moving Utah up. Like, they took a wait-and-see approach. I think if they beat Arizona State this week, especially with them playing Oregon the week after, they'll get that kind of media boost, too, to where they could jump up near the top 10, not in the top 10, but maybe around 12, 13, to where that Oregon game could be a prime time, maybe college game day type event on November 8th in Salt Lake City.
I'll be curious. I'll be curious to see what number they put next to teams' names. Will it be the AP or will it be the selection committee's poll number? But we'll see. Might miss out on game day that week. I believe Ohio State and Michigan State play, but oh well.
Oh yeah, that should be another big one. But yeah, this game set up basically a play-in game for the Pac-12 South title. Another afternoon game, we had a couple of Texas teams battle, TCU and Texas Tech. Alex was completely right. Cliff Kingsbury was definitely much better looking on Saturday, but Gary Patterson and his boys were definitely better looking players on the field. Not a lot to talk about from the Texas Tech side, but man, Boykin had a big game, 22-39. 433 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 0 interceptions. To me, that 0 is like more impressive than the rest of his stats. They had a couple of guys go for over 100 yards rushing, Aaron Green and Travaris Johnson. Over 200 yards between the two of them on only 16 touches. That's impressive. 3 touchdowns as well. I mean, I could go on and on talking about which TCU players had big games. Deontay Gray, he had 165 receiving yards, a couple of touchdowns, only 4 catches. Josh Doxson, who we talked about, 4 catches, 76 yards, a couple touchdowns. All-around impressive day. 82 points. Maybe looks like running up the score. Maybe they're just running their offense. I don't know. I think at that point, most teams may try to calm down on the play calling, but that's going to set up a huge one for the Horned Frogs to go into Morgantown next week. And, if TCU is able to win out, I think they may be able to get that 4th spot in the playoff.
Yeah, this game was like 2 people playing NCAA football and then 1 person getting really depressed and I could see, if Cliff Kingsbury was holding a remote, I could see the batteries flying out and that thing soaring into the couch. It started out, it was the Wild Wild West. Both teams scored a touchdown in the first 75 seconds, and it was kind of game on from there. Unfortunately, TCU ran a 400-meter, while Texas Tech ran the 100-meter sprint. Just all absolute domination from Gary Patterson's squad. And I think with this performance, after what he did last week, dismantling Oklahoma State, Trevon Boykin's got to be there in the Heisman talk. And, he's kind of he's a newcomer, and that kind of helps you because you're not under all that scrutiny early on in the season. And depending on how he does this next week in West Virginia, huge game for the Big 12, under the bright lights, he could very well put himself right in that mix with Mariota and Dak Prescott at that top 3 in the Heisman discussion. But not much more to be said about this game, just all-out domination from TCU.
I literally wrote down TCU is good. Uh, yeah, no, TCU is looking like a really good club. Uh, Texas Tech turned the ball over 4 times. TCU turned the ball over 0 times. You can get 82 points that way, for sure. But yeah, Texas Tech right now is just a bad Big 12 team right now, and even some of the good Big 12 teams don't have much defense, and we all know that they can shoot out with the best of them in the Big 12. So yeah, I just looking win for TCU over Texas Tech.
I think the way TCU's responded the last 2 weeks, how impressive it's been, it's just such a good mark on the type of coach Gary Patterson is. After the devastating loss they had against Baylor, just some teams might pack it in and not really show up to play the next couple weeks, especially with some difficult games on the schedule. But they just come out with something to prove, like that loss was a fluke, like we're for real this season. They've been really impressive these last couple weeks.
Yeah, should set up a showdown, big showdown with Kansas State for the Big 12 title. Kansas State, totally opposite team there. They won 23-0 over Texas. They're all defense, so it'll be interesting. You know, the immovable object versus the unstoppable force. Going back over to the SEC, you got another barn burner, Auburn, South Carolina. A lot of us thought that this one might be close. You never want to count out the old ball coach and his boys. 42-35, Auburn was able to escape. Nick Marshall, mediocre day passing, only 139 yards and a touchdown, but he was able to run for 89 yards and 3 touchdowns. Cameron Artis-Payne had 25 carries, 167 yards and a touchdown. Ricardo Lewis had 102 yards and a touchdown, only 3 carries. This was going back and forth, but the big thing for me was Auburn. They scored right before the half, and then they started right at the second half. And those are 2 big key moments in the game, and I think that's kind of what contributed to their victory. Kind of surprising. They took the lead early in the fourth, and this had been a high-scoring game, but for the final 10 or 11 minutes, nobody even scored, so finally some defense started playing, but a little bit too late for South Carolina. Auburn able to pull out the win, but kind of have a couple of questions about how well they will be able to withstand a team like Georgia or Alabama, somebody who can just roll on offense.
This game kind of had the look and feel of a Big 12 game for the first 3 quarters. The difference in the game being Auburn was able to take care of the ball when they had it for the most part. Nick Marshall, while he didn't have a great game numbers-wise throwing the ball, I mean QBR of 99, that means you pretty much didn't make any mistakes. 12 for 14, 130 plus yards and a TD. And then Auburn just did what they've done under Gus Malzahn so well, and that's run the ball and do it in all sorts of different ways with all the misdirections and options. And Nick Marshall just does a great job of running that offense to perfection. But South Carolina was still right there in it, and it was like the old ball coach was down on a riverboat gambling. He was just going for it every 4th down. I remember a 4th and 8 from their own 43, and this is with about 2 minutes left in the 3rd quarter. They're down by 7, and even Jesse Palmer saying, "Yeah, you got to go for it. You got to go for it." And I'm sitting here like, that is not the rational decision. You can punt the ball. You can get 1 stop. It's the 3rd quarter. But the riverboat gambler he is, the ball coach, it was impressive. They were converting on 4th downs like it was nothing, and these weren't all 4th and 1s. But Dylan Thompson, he just didn't have what it took to really get it done. The 3 interceptions were huge. He had 1 in the end zone late in the game, not their final drive, but the one before, and that really was kind of the knife in the heart of South Carolina, just to get that much pressure on that Auburn defense to get into the red zone, looking like you're going to tie the game up on the road, and to hand the ball right back to Auburn. It just wasn't meant to be for South Carolina, but impressive performance. And I have to think maybe this was a trap game for Auburn. Maybe it was a look ahead to Ole Miss, but we'll see. It'll all tell after those 2 play.
Yeah, I don't understand South Carolina at all. If you guys can fill me in on what's going on, they just seem really inconsistent. But I'm gonna give Auburn a lot of credit for winning, like Alex said earlier, like I've said before. something to be said about winning ball games. SEC stuff. South Carolina's got a lot of good players, but yeah, the consistency just hasn't been there. Um, yeah, I wasn't able to watch the game, but I wish I had because old ball coach doing some gambling out there sounds like a good time.
Yeah, Dylan Thompson's stat line: 29 for 50, 402 yards, 5 touchdowns, 3 picks. Sounds like something that I would do on a video game, just slinging the ball around, go for it on 4th and 8. Yeah, definitely a fun one to watch. So that'll wrap it up for this week and our reaction for the weekend's games. You guys check out our next video. We'll give you our first 4, next 4 for the playoffs, and we'll talk about who are the players of the game and who we have for our Heisman frontrunners.
Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for watching.